On June 16, 2023, Michael Jordan announced he was selling his majority share of the Charlotte Hornets. While he will remain a minority, it is the end of an era for the team. A pretty miserable period, if we're being honest. In the 13 years since Jordan bought a majority share in the team for $275 million, they have been a seemingly endless streak of poor performances and bad luck. But why is that? Has it been Jordan's fault? If so, we can expect some improvement soon. Or is there a deeper systemic problem here that transcends MJ? If so, maybe things will remain typically bleak in Charlotte. How bad have things been for the Charlotte Hornets? Well, the Hornets have made the playoffs twice in the Jordan era. Both times they were eliminated in the first round. Even worse, they have only had one season with a winning record since 2016-17. Last season was a great example of what is wrong with the franchise. The Hornets had enjoyed an atypically good 2021-22 season, finishing with a good 5-2-4 record before being eliminated in the play-in. They had reasons for optimism, as LaMelo Ball became an all-star, and Miles Bridges also enjoyed a strong season. With a few strong veterans like Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward, the Hornets were building a promising core. But then Jordan and the management team terminated coach James Borrego. Always a wrong move if you want to build on the momentum. After a chaotic coach search, the Hornets returned to Steve Clifford, who had already been fired by Jordan for poor performance in 2018. Replacing a coach on their way up with one who has already failed is just poor decision-making. Of course, Charlotte's history shows who works as head coach doesn't matter much. All 7 individuals unlucky enough to work on the team in the Jordan era had losing records. Even Hall of Famer Larry Brown. However, there was also bad luck involved. Miles Bridges scored just over 20 points in 2021-22 and was the clear number 2 option for the Hornets. But in June 2022, Bridges was arrested on charges of domestic violence. Bridges was sentenced to 3 years on probation. Almost a year later, his future with the Hornets and the NBA is very much in doubt. The disastrous 2022-23 season. So, was it shocking that the Hornets went into 2022-23 with little cohesion? Coach Clifford watched the team start with an atrocious 4-14 and lamented the obvious lapses in defense. We start getting tougher, play with some physicality, and we'll start to win. It was a major problem last year. It's a major problem still. It's not something you have to work on. It's somebody getting the ball. It's as simple as that. But it was to no avail. The Hornets finished 20th in the NBA on defensive rating and dead last on offense. Simply put, they sucked at all aspects of basketball. And again, Lady Luck played its part in the Hornets' lackluster performance. The team was forced to play without LaMelo Ball, Kelly Oubre Jr., and Gordon Hayward for extended periods. The Hayward story reflected the haphazard way the Hornets were running things. When he missed some time with an injury, the team announced that Gordon had injured his left shoulder. His wife Robin went on social media and posted, "Just to clarify, since the team doesn't say, it's a fracture in the shoulder, which is a broken bone. I'm over them not protecting players. Just talking with a young player's mom, she was saying the same thing. And since they brought Hayward back after a mere 9 games, that means he may have been playing well before being physically ready." But ultimately, the Hornets were a strong candidate for the season's most disappointing team. Few others with this much talent looked like an irredeemable train wreck throughout the year. What is Michael Jordan's part in the failure? You can't blame Jordan for the Miles Bridges affair, which he could not control. However, management did not make the moves necessary to compensate for the loss of Bridges under such disturbing circumstances. A team on the way up is usually looking to make moves to improve the team, especially after losing one of their biggest stars. But aside from re-signing Cody Martin and bringing in Dennis Smith Jr., they didn't sign or trade anyone. Meanwhile, the rest of the East, notably the Knicks and Cavs, made power moves and expanded the gap between the elite and the Hornets. As we already mentioned, replacing James Borrego after a good year was also a questionable decision. Indeed, it is hard to give Jordan the benefit of the doubt, considering his miserable record for the Hornets and uninspiring tenure in managing the Washington Wizards. Remember that Jordan owns the worst NBA record in history with the Hornets, an ungodly 759 in 2011-12. We all remember how badly Jordan handled Kwame Brown, the #1 draft pick for the Wizards. But we are talking about Charlotte here. Unfortunately, he did not learn from that debacle. Jordan's tendency to pick the wrong guy in the draft and put too much pressure on them would bedevil the Hornets throughout his tenure with the team. In 2006, Jordan was involved in wasting the 3rd overall pick on Adam Morrison, who only lasted 4 seasons in the NBA. That draft included Rajon Rondo, Kyle Lowry, and Brandon Roy as alternatives for the guard position. There is undoubtedly an element of bad luck here. Adam was sensational for Gonzaga, averaging 28 points per game in 2005-06 and sharing honors for Player of the Year with J.J. Redick. But after a reasonably good start in his rookie season, Morrison suffered a knee injury and permanently lost a step. But by a mile, the worst mistake came in the 2012 NBA draft. Charlotte had Michael Kidd-Gilchrist as their pick in the #2 spot. They picked the player ahead of Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, and Andre Drummond. In this case, there were reasons for concern when the pick was made. Kidd-Gilchrist had a concerning inability to create shots. Many analysts were concerned about this and warned that he would be a role player at best. Finally, what can we say about the Hornets' decision to draft Cody Zeller ahead of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Rudy Gobert in the 2013 NBA draft? To be fair, every franchise has atrocious picks like this, but they are usually balanced by some true success stories. Charlotte has very few of them, and we must give Jordan and the Hornets credit where it is due. In 2019, the selected LaMelo Ball was 3rd overall, and PJ Washington brought in the following year. Both players have immense talent and will be essential building blocks for the team's future. While the draft is often the first place people look for big mistakes, it's not the only source of woes for the Hornets. Jordan and the front office have also made serious mistakes in their handling of free agency. One classic example was the massive contract Charlotte gave to Nicolas Batum. In 2016, the NBA increased the amount of cap space allotted for each team. The Hornets acquired Batum in a trade, and he had done a solid job for them in 2015-2016. When the French forward's contract ran out, the Hornets offered him a 5-year, $120 million deal. Unfortunately, Batum had long suffered from mental health issues, and they began to exacerbate. By 2020, the player who had once averaged 15.1 points per game was down to a mere 3.6. Even after trading Nicolas to the Clippers, they still pay the forward $9 million annually. He turned out to be the wrong player to build a team around. Is there hope for the Hornets? Yes. Any team with a talent as exciting as LaMelo Ball has something to look forward to. We are talking about a 21-year-old who averaged 23.3 points per game last year. But then add to that the lucky break of gaining the 2nd spot in the 2023 NBA draft, and there are reasons for optimism. Even better, Jordan will hopefully take a back seat now that he is a minority share owner. MJ may have been one of the best players ever, but there is no getting around it. He has been a total failure as an executive. He doesn't have an eye for talent. Jordan puts too much pressure on his players and is generally ill-suited for the task. Now that he will not be calling the shots, hopefully a healthier team culture can emerge in Charlotte.